have no music for a vibe this morning. No music for a vibe. Different location, different morning. But still a beautiful day. A blessed day. Good morning, cuz. How are you? You're still awake. I seen you made a video just about an hour ago. Oh boy. You alright? I hope you have a great day. Today I'm doing my book review. Thank you. Today I'm doing my book review for the Atomic Habits. So if you stick around, then you get to hear what's going on. But if you don't, you could catch me on the replay. Atomic Habits. So it's about building better habits that will serve you for a lifetime versus just setting goals. It's a really good book, actually. Hold on. Yeah, so you know what? In the light of time, and it is early, I'm just going to start. Whoever pops in, pops in. That's how it goes. It's 5:35. So, the book, we're on chapter 4 of the Atomic Habits, and it's all about building better habits that serve you for a lifetime versus having goals that we set. Because when we set goals, basically you work towards your goal, and when you're done your goal, you basically stop doing whatever it is that you got to do to continuously progress in life without even having to think about it. You know what I mean? You always have to reset yourself to become better at doing something. So this gentleman is talking about implementing strategies on a regular basis in your life that will allow you to become a better person and serve you for a lifetime, right? So that way it's less stressful. So last week he was talking about being aware of things that happen to you, the way you respond, the way you crave things, the way you react. So that way you can kind of pick up on whether the habit that you have is a positive one or a negative one, right? And that way, that self-awareness will kind of give you an opportunity to make the changes that you need to make. So this week, he starts off with telling a story about a lady. She's somewhere at a family event with her father-in-law, and she's looking at him, and she's like, something looks wrong with you. And the man's there enjoying himself, and he's like, nothing's wrong with me. And she's like, no, something's wrong. We got to get you to the hospital. Now, she's a trained paramedic, so automatically she noticed that the man was going into some type of medical state that needed immediate attention. She could just see it on his face. So with that, she decided to take him to the hospital. When they took him to the hospital, it ended up being that he needed surgery for his heart. Now, if he did not get to the hospital on time, the man could have died. But because she recognizes it, she recognized the symptoms, she saw the cues on what was going on with the man, she was able to act quickly and have him helped within a short period of time. So that's important, is being able to recognize things sometimes before they happen, but that usually happens from a trained eye. So they were saying that, you know, obviously when you are educated in something, when you have a serious interest in something, you know, you pay attention to the details, so that way, you know how to prevent things from happening. But there's times where we don't pay attention to details, and we just react on impulse. And how does that serve us? Sometimes that serves us wrong. So our brains notices things that are important, and those are the details that they pay attention to. It highlights relevant cues, and then it catalogs everything else. So the fine details that we are really interested in, it keeps it on the forefront of our brain. But then the rest of it kind of puts it off to the side. It's there, but it's not necessarily automatically something that comes to us. So this is why we can predict certain outcomes without even taking a moment to think about it. Just like her, she saw a symptom, she saw something that didn't look right, and automatically she knew something needed to change. So our ability to notice certain cues in any situation is the foundation of every habit that we have. So that's when we go back to last week talking about having cues, cravings, response, and rewards. The cues is the thing that triggers us to start a behavior. The craving is the feeling that we get that wants us to react. The response is what we do, it's the actual habit. And then the reward is the outcome. Now, sometimes that reward can be a positive reward or it could be negative. It all depends on what habit we have formed. So there's this area where it says we are much more than our conscious mind. So we sit here thinking that it's only sometimes it's the things that we are sitting there thinking about is what we feel serves us. But no, it's the things that we don't notice, because we are not conscious of when our hair is growing. We're not conscious of when our skin is starting to change. We only see it when the change happens. We only see the hair growth when the length comes. But those are unconscious things that are happening to us in our lives that are actually serving us. And we just don't really recognize it until we see it happen, right? We don't need to be the cue we don't need to see the cue for a habit to begin. So not always will we see, sometimes we won't be, like the cue is the thing that happens, right? So we don't need to be, we don't need to see that cue. So sometimes we just automatically have a way of doing things, and it's just like we skip over really paying attention to the detail of what it is that actually happened. We can see an opportunity and take action without dedicating a conscious mindset to it. So this can be positive and it could be negative. So as I was saying with the cue, something happens, right? And sometimes we're not even clear on what happens, but right away we're looking to react. That's how the mind is sorting it out. Okay, this happened, I got to do this. And it's just an automatic reaction. It's very scattered. So it's paying attention to little details to make sure that you're aware of what's happening around you. So just like for myself, I'm going to use a financial aspect as an example. In my past, I get paid, I pay my bills, I buy food, you pay rent, and everything's good. But then, you know what? It comes down to just such a little bit of money left. So what do? You go into panic mode. You sit down and you just let that money sit in the bank. Whatever is left sit in the bank, and hopefully for the two-week window period, everything will work out. Now, it was an automatic response to dealing with money because, hey, I took care of my bills, so whatever is there, and hopefully it will serve me. I didn't question how I was actually managing my money to help serve me for the long term. I just automatically just had a pattern of I took care of my responsibilities, which is my food, my rent, my bills, and everything else is good. Let it sit. Okay? So with that, sometimes we have an urge to act, and it comes from a regular pattern that we follow. So that's just an action that we do. So it says we must start to process our behavior through being aware. We have to be more conscious and really focus on what it is that we're doing when we do things and how we react, because that is going to make us able to make better decisions. So with the second, it says there's a habit scorecard, and this is pointing out and calling whatever it is that you're doing. So it's a safety system designed to reduce mistakes. It reduces errors by 85% and cuts accidents by 35%. So this is very interesting because it's saying, look, if you do this habit scorecard, you can reduce your errors and actually save yourself a lot of trouble by just acknowledging exactly what it is that you're doing, right? So it's an effective way to raise our awareness of our non-conscious mind. So the one that little those details that are behind, it will bring it to the forefront. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, like I said, we're doing things and we're just reacting. We think we're okay, but then after, sometimes you have to go back and say, oh my gosh, why did I do that? Shoot, that sucks. That's usually the outcome, because we automatically go with our first instinct most of the times, right? So it's a way of raising our level of awareness, right? We have to point out and call things as they happen. So he gave an example, and he says basically you have to create a list. What's your morning routine? You write out every action, and beside it you put a plus or a minus. You're going to put the plus or the minus to let you know, does this habit serve this action, is it serving me? Am I doing good? Is this beneficial to me? Is it not? So that way you're aware of what you need to keep and what you need to eliminate, right? So that is the routine that we need to have, which is basically having a scorecard. So for me, I have not necessarily used anything like that as yet so far, since using or implementing strategies from the Atomic Habits. Actually, I think I do the scorecard. No, I don't do the scorecard. What I do is, he told us to visualize where we need to be. So he spoke about our identity. And for me, that's something that I focus on. I look at my morning routine and I say, okay, this is something that I need to do because I know that in my future, it's going to help me. It's the position of where I want to be later as a businesswoman. So I have to operate as if I'm in that space right now. So with that, I definitely implement those strategies at this point in my life. And now it's becoming automatic for me to get up in the morning by 5:30, 6 o'clock without even having a problem. I have a routine on how I do my devotion. I act accordingly. When I have my exercises to do, I don't necessarily... Good morning. Good morning. I'm reading and doing a review on the Atomic Habits. So we're talking about forming better habits that will serve us for a lifetime versus goal setting. So I was speaking about, my morning routines and how I've been just following through on them because I find it beneficial to just be consistent, right? So with that, if the habit adds value to your overall lifestyle, then this is something that we should live and identify with. Remember that we are acting in a place of being, not where we where we want to be, not where we currently are. So going back to that thing about the identity, see yourself in the position or the place that you want to be and recognize the skills, the attitudes, the awareness, the way you come across in certain areas of your life, what things will serve you in the long term, and what can you do now to help you be able to create that better person that you aspire to be. So he says this scorecard, it doesn't change. We're not supposed to change anything at first. It's all about just writing this stuff down and just having it there, looking at it, assessing this scorecard. Okay, in the morning, I wake up, I brush my teeth, I stretch, I sit down on my bed, and then I'm like, what do I do next? Sometimes I do this, sometimes I do that. You know, you got to look at all of the routines that you do in the morning, and then you're going to look at what things are serving you versus what things need to be eliminated. Sometimes people wake up in the morning, it's like, okay, I look at Instagram, I'm on Instagram for a little while, then I get out of my bed and I go to the bathroom, come out of the bathroom, then I get back on Instagram, then after I get myself ready. Well, you know what, when you recognize the things that are not necessarily helping you, like getting on the Instagram too early in the morning, maybe a time that you can use to do a devotion. Because some people say, you know what, I don't have enough time for myself. I don't have enough time for myself. But guess what? The time that you do have for yourself could be spent around doing other things that don't necessarily serve you. Unless you're using Instagram for business, and you obviously need to schedule time out. But if you're trying to achieve a certain goal, you need to have structure. So the scorecard will allow you to get structure by recognize the habits that you have, or your routine, recognize your daily routine, and then making pluses or minuses. And actually he said, don't change anything right away. It's not about changing. It says don't judge yourself. When you look at the things that you do, don't look at it and be like, oh my gosh, why do I do this? Oh, I'm such an idiot. Because sometimes we can beat ourselves down when we recognize the things that we're doing that don't serve us. Good morning. Hey, cuz. When we do that, we look at the things and we're saying, oh my gosh, I suck. Like, why would I be spending so much time on Instagram? And I know that it's not giving me it is what it is. If that's what you do, that's what you do. At least now you're aware of what needs to change. So today, cuz he's talking about having a scorecard of our our routines. So we're supposed to write a list of whatever it is, whatever area you want to change. So your morning routine, if you don't like your morning routine and you feel that you need to have more control over it, then what you do is just write what you do down step by step, add a plus and a minus beside each routine to say, this I want to keep. Write it down and pay attention to what's going on. This Instagram, my phone keeps going off. I don't know what you guys see, but it keeps telling me something's going on. So we need to pay attention to ourselves like we pay attention to others. We observe things about other people, the people that we love, our family, our friends, our co-workers. We observe and we notice things about them, right? But the thing is, now we need to pay attention to ourselves that way. Less about other people and what's going on with them. Yeah, you can pay attention and know what's be aware of them. But right now we have to dive in deep and really focus on ourselves, so that way we can help make the best decisions to implement the change that we want to see and be consistent with the change that we want. So it is necessary that we use a pointing and calling method. So this I found interesting because I kind of do this. I started to do this. And I think he kind of breezed through this in earlier chapters, where you have an action. So you get up in the morning and, because the morning routine was something that I wanted to work on, I wanted to wake up nice and early. But the thing is, I'm not used to it. My action is to sleep in. My action used to be to stay up late. So now that I want to wake up early, it's going to be hard. It's not going to be an easy transaction. So what he said is when you're changing your action, you have to now call out what it is that you're doing. Sorry. So I get up in the morning and I'm like, okay, thank you, Lord. I feel good. Nice to wake up. Thank you, Lord. Amen. But then sometimes the sleep just feels so nice. The bed is warm. It's winter. So you really don't want to move. So you say, okay, five more minutes. That five more minutes, that statement is problematic because that in itself is going back into your comfort zone. And the thing is, when we want to be successful, we see it all the time. Successful people always say, you have to come out of your comfort zone, right? If you want to be successful. So when I say five more minutes, then what I actually do is I say, no. I tell myself, no, get up. And I say it firm. And then that way it's like, no, get up. And I say to myself what it is that I want to do. What are the things that I am going to get up and do? You need to go and work out. You need to go and drink your water. You know what I mean? You got to get your day started. This time when you wake up is your time. If you don't wake up now, then everybody else is going to wake up with you and you're going to miss out on the point of you having your own time in the morning. So I literally do all this talking to myself in the morning so that way I will actually find my way up and start my day because I want to stick to the 5:30, 6 o'clock a.m. routine. And sometimes it's even 5 o'clock. It's nice. I really enjoy it. So right now I don't necessarily have the whole fight in my head because I've been doing it for probably about 3 weeks now. So it's and I'm enjoying it. And the thing is, you got to find fulfillment in the changes that you're making, right? So point out the things that make you feel good, especially when you see that you're making changes. Acknowledge them. It's like, oh my gosh, I had a great morning with myself. You know, I felt at peace this morning just being with me and my coffee and my devotion, or listening to that podcast, or enjoying my music, doing my self-care routine. Whatever it is that you enjoy about the change that you're making, acknowledge that, because that's going to help to funnel the positive flow as you continue going. Just like one of the workouts that I do, the gentleman, he says, when we're working out, he says, smile as you're doing your workout. He's like, you're doing it, just get into it. Recognize, you got to trick your brain to make yourself feel that you're enjoying it, because it's something that you want and you need to do. So fake it till you make it. And that's what I do. And I get through the workouts quite nicely. Plus at the end, he has a nice little incentive for us. We do a little fist bump. It's cute. So yeah, so we're going to start speaking our actions out. And then this way we're buying time for us to really implement and change our mindset from the negative automatic behavior that we would have. 5:30 a.m. the alarm goes off. Good morning, self. Thank you, Lord, for this beautiful day. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, you could lie back down. No, don't worry, you have more time. You're just trying to wake up early. Then you say, no. You have things to do. Remember how good it felt yesterday? So this is what we need to do. Start speaking the positive things to ourselves so that way we'll continue the journey. And obviously, it's all about awareness. The more that we are aware of our actions, the more better decisions and choices we will make. And those choices and behaviors will serve us for a lifetime. So that was chapter 4. Chapter 4, he wanted us to just acknowledge our automatic senses, right? Acknowledge our sense. And then speak to our senses. What's happening? What am I doing? How am I doing it? Okay, you're going to make a list, and that's your scorecard. You're going to write out what you do. You're going to put a plus and a minus beside everything that you do. You're going to take off what doesn't serve you. You're going to keep what serves you, and then you're going to try to implement those strategies every day. And from there, you're going to start speaking to yourself out loud to make sure that you're starting to build that conscious awareness and stopping yourself from speaking negatively about whatever it is you're doing. Chapter 5, we're just going to go over chapter 5. He put people they did an experiment and they put people into 3 groups, right? And one group was given a certain set of instructions. Another group was given another set of instructions. And so was the third, and so on, right? However, every group's instructions were different with a little bit more detail added. The first group was basically given free reign to do what they wanted because they believed that they were you guys are goal oriented, so you don't have to worry. Take control. You just want to change. You want to work out every day, work out every day. Come back to us in 2 weeks and let us know how it worked out, right? They were given free reign to do whatever they wanted to do. The second group was given a task to do the workout, but then also to track the outcomes and read some material about fitness and such. And then the third group, they were given a little bit more detail. They had to fill out some information. They got the same task as the other one, but theirs was they had to do an activity on top of that. So when they did that, they ended up being more successful because they had they were given direct details, they were given an activity, and they were given research. And with all 3 of those things, they ended up being the group that committed to the workout consistently more than the other 2. So what he's saying is that when you have, especially implementing writing things down, it definitely does help with fulfilling your task because you always go back and reference to what it is you write down, right? So it says they filled out sentences which was used to highlight how they intended to implement a particular habit. So for me, I said it's just like finances. It's one thing to say that I'm going to set a budget, right, this month, and then just skim through your banking statement, But when you write it down and you have a plan of how much you want to save, where the money is going to come from, what are you going to sacrifice spending this week to achieve your goal, then that's when you're going to see a difference in being able to set a budget and definitely save the money that you want, right? So it's that action piece that has to be implemented before you decide to make a decision and take on a task. It says implementation intentions. We must have implementation intentions. So it says this, so something happens and then you'll say, I'll do this. I'll write it down. And then we have to put a time and date with it. So being more detailed with what it is that we want from life. It's called implementation intention. So recognize what business do. So, yes, so businesses do that. Businesses, we work at workplaces, right? They are very strategic on how everybody's role is to be played out. That's why we have job descriptions, and that's why we have resumes and cover letters to make sure that we match what it is that they are looking for. That's why businesses have consistency and are able to thrive. Most businesses can because of their strategies, right? So even though it's just us in our personal lives, if we're looking to have success in certain areas, we have to start implementing strategies such as acknowledging what it is we want to do, how it is that we're going to do it, when we want to do it by, and then where is it going to get done. So he says specific plans are important when performing new habits. These when, how, where. When, how, where. Those are things that we have to consistently write down and be conscious of when we're making changes to our lives. So it will be stuffed into our memory bank, and if we don't do that, then we just put it in our mind like, okay, I'm going to be budgeting this month. But if we don't actually write it down and make a commitment to every week checking our budget and making sure that we're setting aside time every week to set a budget, so that way we can stay on course, then we're just putting it in our mind to say, oh yeah, I just want a budget, and we're hoping that every month we're going to achieve our budget goal. But the thing is, when you actually write it down, you give yourself a time and a place where you're going to sit down and go over your budget, review your budget, be aware of where you're allocating your money. Then you're going to see, oh my gosh, wow, I saved here and I was able to stretch money a little bit longer here. So if I do this next month, this is great. It makes you feel good when you start to see the outcomes happening. And the more you do that, the better it will become. And that's when you start to form these positive habits. So based on all of this, how productive will the outcome be? Well, don't you think it will be a positive outcome? I think it would be positive because, like I said, it allows you to not only see a result as you're making certain changes, it will also allow you to feel good about the changes that are being made. Because the only reason why we're making these changes is because we're looking for better, right? And when you do better, then you see better, you're going to feel better, which will make you inclined to continue going through the process. We need to follow a predetermined plan. Good morning. Hey, good morning, Queen. How are you? I'm just going through chapter 5 of the Atomic Habits, and he's talking about writing things down when we're making changes, because typically what we do is we say that we want to make a change and we're like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to start doing this. But if we don't necessarily think about what it is that we do right now, it becomes very hard for us to commit to change in the long run. So one, he was telling us to have a scorecard of our actions. So in the morning, what is your morning routine? If you want to change your morning routine, you got to make a list of what it is that you do and put a plus and a minus. You take off what doesn't serve you, and then you keep what does. I agree. I write down everything. Do you? That's good. I literally started not too long ago. I write a lot of things down, but when it comes to like changing my habits, I haven't started that yet. I started to become conscious in my head of my actions and do the whole talking to myself and talking myself out of repeating bad habits. But the writing each thing down that I'm doing that doesn't serve me, and then making a scorecard of what's wrong and what's right, I haven't gotten there yet. But I'm gonna have to try it because it sounds like it's something that's really good. So he says here, a predetermined plan. So it says, I will monitor. So you would say, I will monitor my weekly budget. You said it, put a date on there, on such and such a day, at such and such a time, and put the location. So when you're saying you're going to have a predetermined plan, you're going to put what it is you want to do, what day it is you want to do it, what time you want to do it, and the location that you will be in when you're making the change. So this way, it allows you to make it a habit that you're going to be doing every week at such and such a day, such and such a time, and it becomes an automatic habit, right? He suggests that a new habit should be started on the 1st. So whether it's the first day of the week, month, or year, it's just a very hopeful time for people. I don't know about you and how you feel about starting on the 1st, but I kind of believe The first is usually when people do tend to make changes, and for myself, I would recognize that as something. Yes, I do that. I've never really started, oh, I'm going to start this on a Friday. I always say, okay, let me get through Sunday. I'm going to start eating good next week. So I want to wait until the weekend passes, and Monday I'm going to do it. So yeah, the first is the best time to actually start. Then he talks about habit stacking. So each action becomes a cue that triggers the next behavior. So we need to identify our current habit and whatever new habit that we want to implement on top of it. We need whatever new behavior we want to implement on top of it. We can be able to stack it onto a current habit. So he gives an example. So actually, I use an example, especially with the financial portion. So when you want to budget, you say you want to budget, you're looking at your bank account, you're looking at yours. You too. Enjoy. Work it out, girl. Take it easy. So yes. So the thing is, I wanna budget. That was the whole goal, right? But he's saying take it further. Habit stack. So how you habit stack is you come home, right? So you've gone shopping. You're shopping. You're doing your thing. Well, one, make sure you take your receipts. When you take your receipts, you come home and you put them in a specific spot. So that way, when it comes down to the day that you have set aside to do your budget, you have all of your things near you. So that way, all your receipts near you, you have your bank statement open. So that way, everything is there that you need to be able to create a very affluent way of doing your process, right? You're not messing up and saying, oh my gosh, I don't have this, I don't have that, and then it seems like a headache. You be more organized. So your regular routine, what we're going to do is we're going to set it up in a way where, all right, I want a budget, I'm going to do it on such and such a day. But the thing is, I know I use cash when I spend as well. So some of the stuff in my bank account, it will show on my bank statement, but when I withdraw the $20 from the bank machine and I'm using it in the store, I'm going to have to make sure I keep my receipts. So that way you're habit stacking. Now you're making sure that you're implementing other strategies to help you serve your one ultimate habit that you want to change. It will help you do a lot better with being able to budget and making sure you're more accurate in what you're doing. It's just a good way to help you change your habits altogether. We have to understand our actions. Choose a realistic and less distracting way to be consistent. So just make it simple. As he said in the first few chapters, he talked about that 1% change, right? We don't have to go out and make everything very, very difficult. We don't have to say, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do that, I have to change all my ways. We're not changing all our ways. Pick one thing, focus on it, hone in on it, grow into what it is, enjoy the process of changing it. Remember the person that you want to become. It's that whole identity portion. The reason why you're changing is because you're working towards becoming your better self. You're preparing yourself for that position that you see yourself in the future. So work on one thing at a time. Make sure you become good at that one thing, and then guess what? Everything else you will start to build on. This is not about goal setting. This is about building lifetime habits that will serve us in different areas of our life. So making the list is important. Implementing them naturally. Yes. Habit stacking. So he says the first law of behavior change is just making it obvious. right? When we implement the intention, so the implementation intention is just making your habit specific, making it stand out, right? And then setting a time and a location and writing those details out, it makes you aware of consistently being able to work on that task. And when we do those things, we will be able to have a better result, and we will start to enjoy the change. I know that some of us are making changes in our lives, and we're starting to feel so good about what's going on. I'm speaking to different people, and I can hear the positivity that they feel. And the thing is, it's like it doesn't happen until we actually take action, right? So I hope that today, I know it was a lot because it was 2 chapters, but there's 20 chapters in the book. So now I'm just trying to bulk them up into 2 chapters at a time. But they're very simple routines, right? Write down what you're doing, plus, minus, what serves you, what doesn't. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel that you need to change it right away. Process it. Really pay attention to it. As you're going through your daily routine, speak to yourself about what it is you're doing and ask yourself, is this really serving me? How is this serving me in the long and the short term? Right? And then habit stack, where, okay, I want to do one thing, but how can I add on top of it? So that way it will become a very solid change that I'm making. How can I habit stack? And that is in chapter 4 and 5 of the Atomic Habits. So if you have any questions or concerns, you can reference that chapter. All right. Oops. Thank you for sticking with me this morning. You have a blessed day, and we will see each other next Wednesday. Today's Friday. I did it because of my schedule this week with work. That's why it was on Friday. But next week, we're going back to Wednesday mornings at 5:30. All right? Have a blessed day. And with everything you do, have faith, stay focused, and always follow through. Thank you.